The Galactic Federation ships appeared in Earth's sky without warning, smooth and bright like silver clouds that did not move with the wind. They stopped high above the planet, calm and perfect as if they had always been there. No weapons were shown. No threats were made. The Federation believed this was the best way. Fear was not needed for young worlds. Across Earth, people watched the sky in silence. Some cried. Some prayed. Some filmed the ships with shaking hands. Governments tried to speak, but the Federation did not answer them. Instead, a single message reached every screen, every radio, every speaker. The voice was clear, slow and gentle. The Federation spoke of peace. It spoke of order. It spoke of safety among the stars. They said Earth was ready. John Carter stood inside a large meeting hall built only weeks earlier. The room was simple, wide and bright. A clear wall of glass showed the blue sky outside. In the center of the hall stood a tall alien figure, pale and thin, with calm eyes that never blinked. Two others stood beside it, silent and still. John listened closely. The alien leader spoke about history. It said many young species had once feared the stars just like humans. Those species had fought each other. They had destroyed their own worlds. The Federation had saved them. It had given them rules, guidance, and protection. In return, those species had given loyalty and trust. John nodded slowly, but his mind was busy. The alien voice never changed. It was smooth and certain, like someone reading from a book that had only one ending. The leader spoke about membership. Earth would be welcomed. Human wars would end. Disease would be cured. Hunger would disappear. Space travel would be shared. Humanity would no longer be alone. Many people in the hall felt hope rise in their chests. Some smiled. Some whispered to each other. This was everything humans had dreamed about. But John felt something tighten inside him. He watched the aliens' eyes. They were calm but not warm. He listened to the words. They were kind but careful. Every promise came with a quiet rule hidden inside it. John had been chosen as an envoy because he listened more than he spoke. He had spent years in talks between nations that did not trust each other. He had learned that danger often wore a friendly face. When the alien spoke of guidance, John heard control. When it spoke of protection, he heard obedience. The Federation leader explained the next step. Humans would accept supervision. Human ships would not travel beyond allowed space. Human weapons would be limited. New technology would be given slowly, carefully, when humans were ready. Ready according to whom? John looked around the room. Emily Ross sat a few seats away, her hands folded tight. David Miller stared at the floor, his jaw hard. Anna Blake wrote notes fast, her pen shaking slightly. They all felt it too. The alien finished speaking and waited. It did not seem nervous. No species had ever said no before. The Federation knew this. It had records older than Earth's cities. It had watched countless worlds take the same path. Young species always wanted safety. John stood. The room grew quiet. He thanked the Federation for coming. He thanked them for their offer. His voice was calm, steady, and respectful. He spoke slowly, using simple words so there would be no confusion. He said humans were curious. They wanted to learn about the galaxy. They wanted peace. They wanted to meet others among the stars. The alien leader nodded, pleased. Then John paused. He spoke about choice. He said humans had fought terrible wars. They had made great mistakes. They had hurt each other in their world. But every change they had made came from struggle, not command. From failure, not orders. He said humans did not grow well when told who to be. The room felt heavy. Even the air seemed to wait. The alien leader tilted its head slightly. This was new. This was not part of the pattern. John continued. He said guidance could be helpful, but only when asked for. Protection mattered, but freedom mattered more. Humans needed the right to fail, to argue, to choose their own path. Some Federation observers shifted. Their hands moved in small, sharp ways. They did not interrupt. John finished by saying humanity would listen, would talk, would learn. But it would not give up control of its future. The silence that followed was deep. The Federation leader looked at John for a long moment. Its calm eyes searched his face as if trying to find fear or pride or anger. It found none. Only resolve. This confused the Federation. Young species were afraid. They begged for safety. They traded freedom for peace without knowing the cost. Humans were different. They stood small before the stars, yet refused to kneel. The leader finally spoke again. Its voice was still calm but slower now. It said humans did not understand the dangers of the galaxy. It said refusal would bring risk. It said the Federation would not force them, but it warned that Earth would stand alone. John accepted this without raising his voice. He said humans had always stood alone. Even on Earth, no one protected them but themselves. The meeting ended without anger, without shouting, without threats. As the Federation ships pulled back slightly from the planet, their leaders recorded the event. Not as a failure but as a strange data point. A young species had been offered everything. And it had hesitated. On Earth, people argued, celebrated, and feared all at once. Some said John had doomed them. Others said he had saved them. No one knew what would come next. But one thing was clear. For the first time, the Galactic Federation had met a species that valued choice more than safety. And they did not yet understand what that meant. The Federation did not leave Earth. Their ships stayed high above the planet, silent and watching. A new message arrived soon after the first meeting. This time it was longer and more detailed. The tone was still calm, still polite, but firmer than before. The Federation explained the rules of joining. They said every member species followed the same path. Travel beyond local space would be approved by the Federation. No ship could jump freely. Weapons would be limited to defense only, and even that would be monitored. New science would be shared but only after review. Dangerous ideas would be delayed. Risky experiments would be stopped. The Federation called this balance. Emily Ross sat in a quiet room filled with screens. She was a systems analyst trained to read complex plans and find what others missed. Lines of Federation data moved across the screens in soft blue light. At first glance, everything looked fair. Orderly. Safe. But Emily frowned. Every rule was written in gentle language. Words like care, stability, and guidance appeared again and again. Yet behind those words were limits that never moved. Permissions that could be denied. Doors that could be closed without explanation. She leaned closer, reading slowly. Human ships could explore but only where allowed. Human science could grow but only in approved directions. Human defense could exist, but never strong enough to challenge the Federation. Emily felt a chill. Across the room, David Miller studied another section of the offer. He was quiet by nature, a man who trusted numbers more than speeches. He compared Federation rules with records from other member species. Patterns appeared quickly. Every world that joined had stopped changing after a while. Their cities looked the same for centuries. Their technology improved but never jumped forward. Their cultures became calm, polite, and still. Safe. David rubbed his eyes. They don't stop growth, he said softly. They slow it. On purpose. Emily nodded. They decide what growth is allowed. They shared their findings with others. Anna Blake, Mark Turner, Laura Hayes. The room filled with quiet voices and serious faces. No one shouted. No one panicked. They simply read and listened. Outside those rooms, the whole world talked. Screens showed Federation symbols beside human faces. News channels argued day and night. Some people welcomed the offer. They spoke of peace, of an end to war, of no more fear. Others were uneasy. They asked why rules were needed if the Federation was truly friendly. In homes, schools, cafes, and factories, humans debated openly. Workers talked during breaks. Students argued in classrooms. Families disagreed over dinner tables. The Federation watched all of this with confusion. Most species accepted quickly. Debate meant weakness. Questions meant fear. Delay meant eventual agreement. But humans asked more questions. They asked why travel needed permission. They asked who decided which science was dangerous. They asked what happened if a world disagreed later. The Federation answered patiently at first. Their responses were smooth and prepared. They said the rules protected everyone. They said oversight prevented disaster. They said trust was built through obedience. That word appeared often. Obedience. Emily noticed it and pointed it out during another meeting. They don't use it loudly, she said, but it's there. Always there. David added, they think order is the same as peace. John Carter listened as reports came in from around the world. He saw protests and celebrations side by side. Some people held signs welcoming the Federation. Others held signs asking for freedom. Many simply watched and waited. John felt the weight of time pressing down. The Federation expected a decision soon. Their messages became more frequent. Still polite but less flexible. They reminded humans of dangers in space. Raiders. Silent weapons. Ancient threats. They spoke of worlds that refused help and vanished. Fear slipped into their words. But instead of rushing, humans slowed down. More meetings were held. More data was shared publicly. Scientists explained risks. Historians spoke of past empires that offered protection in exchange for control. Ordinary people were allowed to speak, not just leaders. The Federation did not understand this. Why let everyone talk? Why allow doubt to spread? Why not decide quickly and move forward? From their view, humans were wasting time. Emily and David released a public report. It was simple and clear. It showed the limits hidden inside the offer. It showed how choices would slowly disappear, not all at once, but step by step. The report spread fast. Some people changed their minds. Others grew angry. Arguments became louder, but also sharper. Humans were not united, but they were engaged. The Federation sent a final clarification. They said membership required trust. Trust required rules. Rules required acceptance. There would be no changes. That sentence mattered. John read it twice. No changes. He stood by a window and looked up at the distant lights of Federation ships. They were still calm. Still confident. They truly believed humans would agree in the end. But across Earth, people were not asking how much they would gain anymore. They were asking what they would lose. And that question did not have a simple answer. The Federation waited. Humans kept talking. And the gap between them quietly grew wider. The meeting hall was quiet when the Federation returned for the final talks. The walls were plain and bright, the air still. Outside the wide glass panels, the sky was clear, and the alien ships floated far above, watching without movement. The Federation leaders stood in the center of the room. They looked the same as before, tall, pale, calm. Their faces showed no doubt. They believed this meeting would end like all others. With agreement. John Carter stood across from them. He felt tired but steady. Days of talks had passed. Long hours of listening, explaining, and waiting. The Federation had repeated their offer again and again, changing the tone but never the meaning. Rules. Guidance. Control. Anna Blake stood to John's left. She held a thin tablet at her side and used. Mark Turner stood to his right, his hands relaxed, his face serious. None of them looked angry. None of them looked afraid. The Federation leader spoke first. Its voice was calm and clear, filling the room without echo. It said the time had come for a decision. It said patience had been shown. It said Earth must now choose safety or risk, order or chaos, membership or isolation. The words were smooth but firm. John listened without interrupting. When the alien finished, the leader inclined its head slightly. This was the signal. The expected moment. John stepped forward. He began by thanking the Federation. He thanked them for coming to Earth. He thanked them for sharing knowledge, for offering protection, for speaking openly. The Federation leader nodded. This was correct. Gratitude always came first. John continued. He spoke slowly, using simple words. He said humans understood the dangers of space. They understood fear. They understood loss. Earth had known war, hunger, and pain long before the Federation arrived. The room remained silent. John said the offer had been studied carefully. Every rule. Every limit. Every promise. Humans had talked across the whole planet. Scientists, workers, leaders, and families had all taken part. This caused a small movement among the Federation observers. This level of open discussion was still strange to them. John paused for a moment, then spoke the word that changed everything. No. He said it clearly, calmly, without force. No. The silence that followed was heavy and complete. Even the soft hum of the room seemed to fade. The Federation leaders did not speak. They did not move. Anna Blake lifted her head slightly. Mark Turner straightened his shoulders. They stood closer to John, not in defense but in support. The Federation leader finally spoke. Its voice was slower now. It asked for clarification. John nodded. He said humanity was grateful but would not join under those terms. Humans would not give up control of travel, of science, of defense. They would not accept rules that could not be questioned or changed. The alien leader stared at him. It said refusal was dangerous. It said Earth was weak. It said isolation would bring suffering. Many worlds had learned this lesson too late. John did not argue. He said humans were weak in many ways. They were divided. They made mistakes. They failed often. But they learned through those failures. They changed by choice, not command. He said safety without freedom was not peace. It was silence. The Federation leader took a small step forward. Its eyes were focused now, sharp in a way John had not seen before. It said no species had ever refused. Not one. Fear always won. Survival always came first. John replied gently. He said survival mattered, but meaning mattered too. Humans needed to decide their own future, even if that future was uncertain. Anna Blake spoke then, her voice steady. She said humans did not reject cooperation. They rejected control. They were willing to talk, to trade, to learn, but not to obey without choice. Mark Turner added only one sentence. He said humans did not ask the Federation to save them. That sentence echoed louder than any shout. The Federation leaders withdrew a short distance and spoke among themselves in quick, silent signals. Their calm was gone now, replaced by confusion. Their records showed no answer for this situation. No model. No pattern. After a long moment, the leader returned its attention to John. It said the Federation would not force Earth to join. That had never been their way. But it warned that the galaxy was not kind to those who stood alone. John accepted the warning. He said humans had always lived with risk. Progress had never come without it. The leader looked at the three humans standing together. They were small. Fragile. No armor. No weapons. No fear. This was not strength the Federation understood. The meeting ended without anger. No threats were made. No weapons were shown. The Federation leaders turned and left the hall in silence. That same day their ships began to pull back from Earth's orbit. Not leaving but creating distance. Across the planet the news spread quickly. Humanity had said no. Some people cheered. Some wept. Some feared what would come next. Markets shook. Governments argued. But beneath all of it, there was a quiet sense of clarity. The choice had been made. John stood alone later, watching the night sky. The alien ships were smaller now, distant lights among the stars. Anna and Mark joined him without speaking. Humans were not united. They never were. But in that moment they shared something rare. They had chosen their own path. The Galactic Federation recorded the event in their archives. A single line marked it as an anomaly. A young species had refused protection. Not in anger. Not in pride. But calmly. And the Federation did not yet understand how dangerous that made humans, not to others but to any force that tried to decide their future for them. The Federation ships no longer filled Earth's sky. They stayed far out now, small points of light beyond the moon's path. From there they watched. They did not speak to Earth again, not directly. They only observed and recorded. This was unusual for them. Most worlds that refused guidance collapsed or begged for help within a short time. Fear returned. Order failed. The Federation waited for this pattern to repeat. But Earth did not fall silent. On the surface life continued. People argued, struggled, and worried, but they also worked. Meetings turned into plans. Plans turned into shared projects. No single nation took control. No single leader claimed victory. Laura Hayes stood inside a wide hangar near the edge of the desert. The building was loud, full of voices, tools, and movement. The smell of metal and fuel filled the air. Around her, engineers, pilots, and workers moved between half-built ships. This place did not belong to one country. Flags were absent. Languages mixed. Arguments broke out and ended quickly. Decisions were slow then sudden. It was not clean. It was human. Laura was not the smartest person in the room and she knew it. Her strength was listening. She gathered ideas, tested them, failed, and tried again. When someone found a better way, she let them lead. The first ships were simple. They were not as smooth or perfect as Federation vessels. Panels did not always fit. Systems failed. Alarms rang often. But each failure taught something. The Federation watched from afar. Their records showed confusion. Without oversight, humans should have broken into chaos. Without strict rules, projects should have collapsed. Instead, progress continued, uneven but real. Laura's team argued openly. Engineers challenged her plans. Young technicians questioned senior experts. Mistakes were admitted without punishment. When something went wrong, no one was erased or silenced. The Federation did not understand this. Their societies worked through order. Roles were fixed. Decisions flowed from above. Stability was maintained by control. Efficiency mattered more than choice. Humans ignored this logic. Across Earth, networks formed. Scientists shared data freely. Small groups tried bold ideas. Some failed badly. Some succeeded beyond expectation. When success came, it spread fast. There was no single path. No central command. The Federation saw humans build engines that were less powerful but more flexible. Navigation systems that were rough but adaptable. Crews trained to act without orders, to change plans in seconds. This was dangerous by Federation standards. It was also effective. Laura stood one day on a platform as a new ship lifted slowly into the sky. The engines roared unevenly. The craft shook then steadied. Cheers broke out, mixed with laughter and relief. The ship did not look impressive to the Federation. But it flew. In orbit, the crew faced problems almost immediately. A power system failed. Communication flickered. Instead of waiting for instructions, they improvised. They rerouted systems, shared ideas, and solved the problem together. The Federation observers paused their recordings. This behavior did not fit their models. Humans did not wait for permission to think. Months passed. Earth did not descend into war. There were conflicts, yes, but also compromise. There were setbacks, but also learning. No outside force held the planet together. It held itself together. The Federation leaders met in quiet chambers. They reviewed data again and again. They saw growth without guidance, order without command, cooperation without obedience. One leader suggested humans were an exception that would correct itself. Another suggested they were unstable and should be avoided. A third remained silent, watching the patterns form. From the Federation view, humans were inefficient. Their systems wasted time. Their meetings were loud. Their progress was slow and fast at the same time. Yet their resilience was undeniable. Laura received reports from other teams. New habitats tested. New drives improved. Failures shared openly so others could avoid them. No single voice owned the future. This frightened the Federation more than weapons ever had. A species that followed orders could be predicted. A species that argued, adapted, and chose freely could not. From a distance, the Federation continued to watch Earth grow. Not smoothly, not safely, but honestly. Their records began to change. Words like unstable were replaced with adaptive. Disorder became flexible structure. Old terms lost meaning. The Federation did not intervene. They did not understand humans yet. But they were starting to realize that control was not the only path to survival. And that realization unsettled them deeply. The Federation did not return to Earth. Their ships stayed far away, watching in silence as the planet changed. Time passed and the pattern they expected never appeared. Earth did not beg. It did not collapse. It did not send desperate calls for protection. Instead, it reached outward. New human ships began to leave the planet, slow and imperfect but steady. They did not travel far at first. They tested, failed, repaired, and tried again. Each journey carried risk and every crew knew it. They went anyway. From deep space, the Federation recorded everything. Their archives were vast, filled with records of worlds that had joined without resistance. Species that traded freedom for safety. Cultures that became quiet and still under careful control. Those records were neat and predictable. Earth was not. The Federation leaders watched humans argue even as they worked together. They saw fear and hope exist side by side. They saw no single voice rule the planet, yet progress continued. This was not weakness. It was something else. Stubborn freedom. The Federation finally created a special record. It was not marked as victory or failure. It was marked as warning. The record stated that humans did not reject help out of pride. They did not believe themselves stronger than the galaxy. They understood danger well. They had lived with it all their history. Humans rejected control because choice mattered more than comfort. The Federation noted how humans accepted help when it did not demand obedience. They traded knowledge. They listened to warnings. They learned from others. But they refused to be shaped by another hand. This was a rare trait. As human ships moved farther into space, the Federation observed something unexpected. Humans did not spread by force. They did not claim systems as their own. They explored carefully, leaving markers, sharing information openly. They were cautious but not afraid. The Federation realized something unsettling. A guided species could be protected. A controlled species could be managed. But a free species could grow in ways no system could predict. This made humans dangerous in a way no weapon ever could. Not because they sought conflict, but because they could not be contained. One Federation leader spoke during a final review. It said that humans would one day stand as equals, not because they were given power, but because they earned it through struggle. Another leader warned that such a species might disrupt galactic order. Neither was wrong. The final record was sealed with simple words. Some species cannot be guided. They must decide for themselves. The Federation ships slowly withdrew from Earth's region of space. Not in defeat, not in anger, but in acceptance. They left behind no threats and no promises. On Earth, people did not celebrate the Federation's distance. They worked. They planned. They argued about the future as they always had. The stars were no longer symbols of rescue. They were destinations. John Carter watched one of the new ships rise into the sky, its engines burning bright against the night. He felt fear, hope, and pride all at once. He knew the path ahead would be hard. Humans would fail again. They would make mistakes. but they would choose those mistakes themselves. Far away in the quiet halls of the Galactic Federation, Earth's name remained in the archives. Not as a member, not as an enemy, but as a reminder. When the Federation encountered new worlds, they would remember this lesson. Power did not always come from control. Strength did not always seek safety. And freedom, once chosen, could not be offered back as a gift. Humanity moved forward into the dark between stars, small and uncertain, yet unbroken. They were alone. And by choice.